Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be going over the top 25 wide receiver options for week 10 of fantasy football. Now, if you got railroaded last week by Joe Mixon, I do feel sorry for you. We need a bounce back week. And it's going to start off with number one here, Tyreek Hill against the Cleveland Browns. Now, Tyreek, I said, last week, if he had another good game, I have to put him at number one. And here he is at number one. Had another great game. He's been the wide receiver one throughout all of fantasy this year in a great matchup against Cleveland. This is a great offense, big play capability. Not much more to say here about Tyreek Hill. Love him this week. Stefon Diggs against the Minnesota Vikings at number two here. Is this a revenge game for Diggs? That's my question. Is he going to go off? Hopefully. The question that we got to ask, though, is Josh Allen healthy? If Josh Allen isn't healthy, we got a real problem on our hands here. Stefon Diggs has been very consistent throughout this year, the wide receiver one on a great Buffalo offense. But is Josh Allen injured? Is he going to be playing? If he's not playing, you got to severely limit your expectations on Stefon Diggs, even though he is a great wide receiver. You're still playing him every week, though. So I don't know. This should be a high-scoring game if Josh Allen plays as well. So I love the matchup, love the player. If Josh Allen plays, Diggs is good to go. Coming in at number three here, we have Cooper Kupp against the Arizona Cardinals. What do I have to say about this guy? I'm not going to touch on him too long. Most consistent wide receiver in fantasy this year, in my opinion, every single week has been around that 20-point mark. You love playing Cooper Kupp against any matchup. Doesn't matter. He's this whole offense. So you're not really playing anybody else in this offense. Allen Robinson, Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson have been irrelevant as of yet. So you love the matchup. Cooper Kupp, great player. Justin Jefferson coming in at number four against the Buffalo Bills here. Tough matchup, but I expect high scoring. Like I said before when I was talking about Diggs, Jets is insanely good. He's an insanely good player, and I love him in my matchup. Every single week you're playing Justin Jefferson. Now, coming in at number five here in a tier below, we have DeAndre Hopkins against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Hopkins came back down to earth finally last week after those 2 amazing weeks when he came back from the suspension that he had for 6 games. He didn't see a lot of targets last week, 5 targets. We can't be having that for our number one wide receiver. Kyler was struggling this entire game against a Seattle team that's been way above expectations. Very good Seattle team, actually, and their defense has been playing very good. I wouldn't expect him to get 5 targets ever again in this offense. I think he sees way above that. If the Cardinals can find a way to, not go 3 and out every drive or not run the ball a billion times when they're actually losing the game, then I love Hopkins in every single matchup. I would expect a huge bounce back game from D-Hop right here against the Rams, who are struggling a lot. Even though they played pretty good defense against a Bucs team, that Bucs team is not the same as the Cardinals. Cardinals have a lot more weapons than that Bucs team, so I'd expect some good things from D-Hop this week. Coming in at number 6 here, we have Devontae Adams in a tough matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Colts defense is surprisingly good, sneakily, because their offense is on the field for 10 seconds a game. So the defense is just playing and playing and playing. It makes them look a lot worse than they actually are. Devontae Adams had that explosive week last week. We knew he was going to have a bounce back game. Didn't quite know it was going to be that explosive. 17 targets for him. We want that target share to stay consistent. We don't want to see 17 targets and then 1 target and then 18 targets and then 2 targets and then 5 targets and then 10. We have to keep it consistent around 10 to 15 targets every game. That's what you want to see. My problem isn't with him getting open. It's with Derek Carr being consistent in this offense. And I think they really struggle in this game against Indianapolis. If I'm using my, vision here, I want to take a guess, say this is a very low scoring game. It's going to be an offensive struggle if I had to guess. So I would limit expectations a little. I still think Devontae Adams sees a good amount of targets in this game because you can't have that happen again where he only gets 3 targets. So he's a wide receiver one. We're gonna start him regardless. Next up is Jalen Waddle against the Cleveland Browns. I was talking about it earlier. Miami offense is playing to win these games. They are playing to score as many points as they possibly can here. Should be a shootout against a Cleveland team that is not very good on defense, at least against the run. But that run should open up the pass to Waddle and Hill, so I'd expect good games from both of them. I mean, there's more than enough Tua passes to go around to Waddle and Hill, so I'm confident in this matchup and having Waddle here at number 7. Next up at number 8 and last in this tier is going to be A.J. Brown going up against the Washington Commanders. Now, Brown came back down to earth like we knew he would. That 39-point fantasy performance in PPR leagues is not attainable every single week. He struggled a little bit on Thursday against the Texans, did catch a touchdown, which was good to see. Saved his day a little bit there. But I'd expect a good little bounce back game from him here in this divisional matchup. The only bad thing about this is Washington defense isn't terrible. On the outside, they're actually bottom 10 in the league, though. But this is a divisional game, and in the past, we've seen divisional games be lower scoring than normal, so I'd limit expectations here a little bit on A.J. Brown. Still think he has a better week than last week. Coming in at number 9 in a tier lower in B, we have Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo is due for a good game. You know, when you think of Deebo Samuel, you think a ton of yards after catch. You know, you think a long touchdown. I think Deebo gets one of those this week. McCaffrey should open the field up more downfield with the play action, hopefully. It's a great matchup against a struggling Chargers defense. I know, I'm sorry, a couple of my viewers are Chargers fans, but your guys' defense, you got to step up a little bit here. This should be a shootout, in my opinion. More so with the 49ers than the Chargers. I feel like the Chargers are kind of struggling on offense, but 49ers should have no problem putting up a lot of points here. Is Deebo healthy is my last question. Is he going to be fully healthy? If he's fully healthy and a go by Thursday, Friday, then I'm feeling really good about this matchup against the Chargers. Coming in at number 10, here we have Amari Cooper going up against the Miami Dolphins. Now, Cooper's been very consistent lately. You got to love what you're seeing here. It's an ideal scenario for Cooper if they go down early in this game to the Dolphins. Like I said, should be a shootout, but you don't want it to just be the Nick Chubb show and the Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert show. You don't want it to be a full ground game. You want the Browns to get down early and have to throw the ball consistently. Amari Cooper would benefit from that situation a lot. I do want to see a little bit more consistent target share for Cooper. He's kind of all over the place. If we take a look at his targets right here, let's say since week 4 against Atlanta, if we look at it, we got 4 targets, then we got 12 and 12. You love to see that. And then you go back to 4 targets, which you don't like, and then back to 7. So we got to find a middle ground here. We want about 8, 9 targets for Amari Cooper, I would say is a good range. And then I'd be very consistent. Like, I'd love starting him every week. We're still starting him here, though. All right. You don't get any ideas. We're not taking him out of your lineup. He's been playing very good lately. You got to ride the hot hand here. All right. Next up and last in this tier is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown going up against the Chicago Bears. We need a big bounce back game here from Amon-Ra. We really do. This is a bad defense in Chicago that's been giving up a ton of points lately. It's the perfect scenario for Amon-Ra. He has been getting a lot of targets every single week. So that's not the problem. Last week was a very tough matchup, and I talked about that in my last, wide receiver ranking video for week 9, that I didn't like the matchup really, but I still believe that Amon-Ra would get a decent amount of points. 9.5, not really amazing. We're not, jumping for joy for that. We know Amon-Ra has the potential to break out and have a big game. It's really now or never here for Amon-Ra. If I'm going to be honest with you, these next 2 out of 3 of these next matchups are not good at all. We have the New York Giants after this week, and then we have the Buffalo Bills. So he has to figure it out right now. Jared Goff, find Amon-Ra. We need some points out of this man. Dropping down another tier here, we have CeeDee Lamb going up against the Green Bay Packers. And I was just talking about it. Amon-Ra really struggled against this Packers defense. They did not score a lot of points. I feel like, obviously, the Cowboys offense is a little bit better than the Lions, if we're being totally honest, especially with Dak back. This is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. You're feeling pretty confident, and you're always starting CeeDee Lamb because you drafted him pretty early on as probably your wide receiver 1 or 2. This most likely will be a low-scoring game if I had to guess, though. I mean, this is not going to be a shootout. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they look bad. They look very bad, and I expect the Cowboys to come back a little down to earth after that big performance. I don't know. I feel like it could be a low-scoring game. I would limit my expectations just a little, but you still got to start CeeDee Lamb in all your leagues. Next up, number 13, Brandon Ayuk going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a very similar situation to Deebo. Very good potential that a lot of points get scored here for the 49ers. Only thing that strays me away from Ayuk a little bit, and also Deebo, is if the 49ers get into that run-heavy scheme that they love to do. You saw that a while back with Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell. They love to run the ball. So that's the only thing that limits Ayuk's potential a little bit. But he's been the most consistent wide receiver this year in San Francisco because Deebo's had the injuries and stuff like that. He's very undervalued, in my opinion. Ayuk is the deep threat here. They love to throw him the ball deep, and McCaffrey should open up the field and the deep ball for Ayuk. This is a good matchup, too. This is a good matchup. I would expect a good game here from Ayuk again. Moving on to number 14 here, we have DK Metcalf going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are struggling mightily. DK has been proving himself to be very consistent, along with Tyler Lockett, too. This is going to be the same thing. I have Tyler Lockett at 15. I have DK at 14. As long as Seattle looks good, I feel confident playing both of these guys. Geno is looking like a stud out there. Like I said, Tampa Bay's defense is not the best right now. I'm expecting Seattle to put up a good amount of points on them. It's a good matchup. This is an early game, though. This is a weirdly early game in Germany. So I don't know if that affects them at all. Let's hope there's still a decent amount of points scored. Seattle's been putting up a ton of points. I don't know. I'm definitely feeling more confident in DK and Lockett than Evans and Godwin, but we'll talk about that in a little bit here. On to number 16, we're going to go Chris Olave against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Olave is the most talented wide receiver on this Saints team. The offense looks absolutely horrible, though. Dalton is struggling mightily, and you saw it on Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens. Just not a good game at all. Just really bad all around. Olave does get the most targets on this team, which is a good sign. This matchup screams out to me, though, low scoring. All right, two offenses that really are struggling and two defenses that are not bad whatsoever. I expect kind of a low-scoring game. Olave does get those consistent targets, though, so I'd still probably keep him in your lineup. Number 17 here, Juju. Going up against Jacksonville, I got to give Juju some credit here. I said last week he had two 20-point performances in a row. If he has another one, we're moving him up drastically in the rankings, and that's what we're doing. I'm telling him again right here. If you have another good week, Juju, you're going to see top 15 next week. I'm telling you right now, he's been looking really good. Seems to be the go-to guy for Pat Mahomes, except for Travis Kelce, of course. Kelce's always going to be the number one wide receiver. All right, he's a tight end, but he's going to be the number one guy in Kansas City for Pat Mahomes. And then you got Juju right after. Tony didn't see a huge role in this game. I want to monitor it over the next couple of weeks, see if Tony gets more and more action. But as of right now, I'm feeling really good about Juju. Not a bad matchup at all going against the Jaguars. I expect it to be a high-scoring game. We might want to keep our expectations a little intact here for Juju, though. I would say expect about 12 to 15 points here next week against the Jaguars. Next up, number 18, Michael Pittman Jr. against the Las Vegas Raiders. This offense on the Colts looks absolutely terrible. Sam Ehlinger looks awful. Offensive line looks awful. But this is a great matchup. This is the perfect matchup, and it's now or never. Just like it's similar to Amon-Ra, it's now or never for Michael Pittman Jr. We need him to have a good game, and you really need to be freaking out if he has a bad game right here, because that means they're not going to be good against anybody. The good news for you, though, is that he is the wide receiver one here in Indianapolis, and you're just hoping. You're hoping to God for good volume. Because he's not a downfield threat, to be honest with you. He runs a lot after the catch, but he's a slant out route type of guy. You know, he's not going deep a ton of the time, at least. Like most of his catches are within 5 to 10 yards. So limit your expectations here. Like I said, it's going to be trouble if he doesn't have a good game here. That's why I got him up a little higher than last week. Definitely was a sit versus New England with those 5.2 points, though. Coming in at number 19, Christian Kirk against the Kansas City Chiefs here. Now, last week, Christian Kirk quietly had a great game, a great fantasy game. Now, last week against the Raiders, he ended up with 21.6 points. Just like I was talking about Pittman in the last section, number 18. That's why I need him to have a really good week this week, because Christian Kirk had an amazing game, but he was overshadowed by Travis Etienne, so no one's really talking about Christian Kirk. But I saw a great game from him. And I see another great game in his future right here against the Kansas City Chiefs, who give up a lot of points. Should be a high-scoring game here that the Jaguars have to come back in. I don't expect them to be winning this game at all. I feel like they're going to be coming from behind the entire time. I think this is a game where Trevor Lawrence throws 40 passes. I don't think they can rely on Travis Etienne this entire game. So Christian Kirk should get involved heavily in this game, and I wouldn't mind starting him in this situation. Coming in at number 20 here, we have DJ Moore versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the offense came back to where we knew it could go last week. The floor on DJ Moore is through the ground. It's really bad. It's like 0 points. That's the floor for DJ Moore. The ceiling is 30. So you got a wide variety of outcomes when you're playing DJ Moore. I would honestly look to trade him after this week if you can. If he has a good week against Atlanta, this is too inconsistent of an offense for me to feel comfortable playing him on a weekly basis. As for now, he's an all right flex option, but he's giving me that inconsistency in points and also in targets. So we need to see some consistency out of this guy. Next up, coming in consecutively at number 21 and 22, we have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. This whole Bucs offense here against the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Evans, like I was saying in my last video, we got to learn how to catch a ball, man. So many drops from Mike Evans. It's very concerning for me. Not a great matchup going against the Seattle Seahawks. Their defense has been actually very good this year. It's a very early game in Germany. That might throw the players off as well. So a lot of red flags here, and I'm kind of nervous about this matchup. Chris Godwin, the same thing, although he can catch wide open passes, and he's Brady's safety blanket. Is he going to get enough targets? Is Brady going to hit him enough in this matchup? We'll have to see. I'm not very hopeful, though. That's why I have them down this low on the list. Next up, Deontay Johnson against the New Orleans Saints. Deontay is honestly due for a good game, in my opinion. Not sure if it's going to be this one, though. This, like I was saying earlier, might be a low-scoring matchup. Kenny Pickett definitely needs to do better and find Deontay a little bit more, although Johnson does get consistent targets. Around that 10-target range every single game, he's bound to score some points soon. He's bound to find the end zone. Like I said, I don't know if it's this game, but in the future, I would keep Deontay Johnson or even trade for him. He has some good matchups coming up, so keep an eye out for this guy. But for this week, he's ranked a little bit low, 23. Number 24 in an even worse matchup, Allen Lazard against the Dallas Cowboys, who have a very good defense. This is a bad offense in Green Bay right now. They can't seem to do anything right. Bad matchup, like I just said. Cowboys have a great defense. This is the only guy that can be trusted here. I don't know if I'm fully trusting him in this game, though. So that's why he's at 24. And coming in last on the list here at 25 is Terry McLaurin. God, I hope he proves me wrong against the Eagles, but as an Eagles fan, maybe a little biased here. It's a really bad matchup for him going up against Darius Slay, in my opinion. Divisional, low-scoring game, possibly. I hope he proves me wrong, though. I hope he has a little decent day in case anybody watching this video wants to start Terry McLaurin. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, drop a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, which you probably are, I will catch you in the running back rankings video right after this. Later.